SPENGA is a boutique fitness concept. SPENGA
Right.
has a very deep lens and a successful pre-sale campaign. SPENGA's changed their life. They've found flexibility and freedom.
Before you explore franchise options, take a few minutes to understand how you are wired. The assessment link is below. Welcome to Franchise Focus. Today we're talking with SPENGA. SPENGA is a boutique fitness brand built around one simple idea: one workout, three disciplines, spin, strength, and yoga, all in a 60-minute session. Members like it because it saves time. Owners like it because it drives repeat visits and recurring revenue. Today we're digging into how this model works as a business, not the workout, the ownership reality, the systems behind the retention, the role of the owner, and why SPENGA looks different today than it did in its early growth years. My guest is Carin Skowronsky, VP of Franchise Development with Franchise Fastlane, who represents SPENGA. She spends her days talking with serious operators and sees where people win, struggle, or self-select out. Welcome, Carin.
Thanks for having me, Laura. I'm super excited to be on the podcast.
Yeah. No, this is exciting. So SPENGA, a brand that I have loved over the years and
Yeah.
love the model, love everything about it, but it's growing and expanding. So I guess take me into a little bit about what you see as SPENGA. Your background too. Your background is just immense in terms of business experience as well as brands. But let's launch into that, and then we'll dive into the how the model is growing.
Yeah. So I've been working with SPENGA for a decade now. So what I love about this brand is they're not a new brand. I know time flies.
Okay.
They've been around. I mean, they've been around for 10 years now. And I started working with them initially back at towards the end of 2018 and really into 2019 as they started, growing from their one corporate location across the country. But, I've also been in franchising that same amount of time. And so I've now bought my own franchises. I'm no stranger to ownership. It's one of those things that helps me coach other people and
Yes.
just, real world situations of things to think about if you're keeping your corporate job, trying to run a business, or you're building generational wealth. There's just so much you can do at franchising, and it's very, very rewarding.
Yeah. Wonderful. So let's talk about the boutique fitness world and the concerns people have. Some do not last. SPENGA has. It's proven itself, right? 10 years,
Yeah.
and it's adding to the model. So maybe if you can walk through that a bit and how people. We'll just get into the basics about the boutique fitness first.
Yeah, I mean, the industry is massive. And I think what we saw coming out of COVID, which we all know, really hit the fitness industry hard. The networks that were able to be resilient and work through changes, just, unforeseeable changes were the ones that came out on top. SPENGA being one of them. And so, coming out of COVID, people started paying attention to their health. That was something that was on the back burner for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
When we think about what fitness brings to people, it's not just necessarily weight loss, it's mental health. And that's been a topic at the forefront too. So there's a lot that people, I think, really place an emphasis on now for sustainability and with the fitness industry, it's ever changing. So brands that are not, I don't even want to call it staying on top of trends, but that aren't doing something new or giving their members something that, keep up with other competitive brands are going to be left behind. And I think SPENGA's done a really good job of that the last couple of years, adding in, you know, nutrition supplements and red light therapy. And
Yeah,
there's
that's
just a
huge.
lot of new stuff that we've done to enhance and also enhance the model for the members, but also enhance it for the franchisee too.
Yeah, no, wonderful. I mean, I love the idea that they're adding all those elements to it. What sort of buyer typically comes into the SPENGA model if there is a typical one?
We see a couple different profiles. So one being your corporate America, executive or white collar corporate person that is looking to either in a couple of years jump into a business of their own and leave the corporate setting or build something for their family, maybe in tandem with a spouse or a partner. And then we've got the fitness professional that
Hmm.
has maybe taught at at different locations over the years. They've maybe general managed at a fitness facility and now they want something of their own. They've got the background, they can maybe teach, but they also know the fitness industry deeply and want to serve as their own owner, operator, and general manager, which is really cool to see too.
Very cool. So let's when a member buys in, let's talk about what they're getting or actually let's back up a little bit. So when someone's looking at SPENGA and they're comparing it to other fitness models or just getting into the fitness industry in general, what are some of the main key things they're looking at to look at the viability, to look at the return on investment with these models.
Yeah, and even leading into that, Laura, I want to just level set for anybody listening what Spenga is and what that workout
Yeah.
looks like too, and bring that full circle. Spenga is a boutique fitness concept, so it is an instructor-led class-based workout. It's 60 minutes, 20 minutes of spin, 20 minutes of strength, and 20 minutes of yoga. So we hit on all three disciplines of fitness, the cardio, strength, and flexibility within that 60-minute time span. With that spin serving as your active warm-up, the yoga serving as your active cool down, so you're burning calories throughout. You know, People that I'm working with on Spenga, they want to be able to measure results. So what a member or, franchise owner, they want to be able to have something measurable and tangible and say, this is working and this is my why. And so, it's a trackable workout. There is spin technology. And a lot of our members now have, say Apple Watches and all of that. And the app feeds into some of those pieces. Yeah. They're also looking for an easy concept. And by easy, meaning they don't want it 100% full of heavy maintenance necessary equipment. You do have the spin bikes, which are an easy piece of, grease the wheels, literally, so to speak, there,
Yeah.
but you don't have treadmills, you don't have rowers, you don't have a lot of that heavy machinery there, and the rest is pretty easy going. But they want something that's flexible. And now we offer more of a flexible format than we did previously. In our
Hmm.
first iterations of the concept, we've shrunk our footprint. We allow the strength and yoga to serve as 2-for-1 fitness space. And so that reduces the square footprint and, of course, the build out that goes along with it.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we've got the model, and we're looking at the owners that are looking at it and what they're looking to measure. So when someone's walking through the process, what about Bangas really do you think is attracting them? And then what does it look like maybe first 90 days of somebody opening?
Yes. So we have a lot of different pieces that go into our pre-sale campaign. So that's something that Spenga
Right.
has a very deep lens and a successful pre-sale campaign, meaning we start putting out marketing, you've got your team talking to people in the community. This is a very big community brand, and that's another big why of why people choose Spenga. We're
Okay.
active in the community. We do a lot of give back, but that pre-sale campaign really attracts members, and so they get that kind of founders rate. And then, we are seeing really strong numbers on day one, generating a lot of revenue when those doors open. So that runs usually 90 to 120 days. So that's a big piece of what we do at Spenga too, starting at day one.
That's great. Now, is there minimums that you target, or does it vary by location, or how does that work?
We really want to see people opening with 200 to 300 members
Okay.
day one. So that is really the goal, the opening. So it seems aggressive, but I would tell you the brand catches on fast, and you see one person joining and telling their friends, and so the snowball effect it kicks in pretty quickly there, and then next thing you know, you have a posse of people that you're working out with, whether they joined with you or that you've met there and that of course helps with retention too.
Is there an average age that tends to be the member, or
We see a range coming in at Spenga, but I would say your 35 to 45 is kind of that sweet spot range for
Mhm.
us.
Mhm.
It is a little bit higher of a price point than say an Anytime Fitness or just, a gym membership that is
Right.
self-starter with machines. So there is a lot of value in that, but you'll see the 35 to 45 crowd coming in
Yeah,
there.
you see that age group just spending on themselves, and
Yeah.
yeah, they see the value. They see, like you talked about, there's so much more to exercising than the physical, right? And so they see that they want to spend that on themselves, less for having kids, so they have more money to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it makes sense. So let's say that you've got the owner that still keeping their corporate job. What's their week look like realistically? Maybe at beginning, then as it starts, as you get your membership up to a level that you want.
Yeah, we really want people that, even though they might have a general manager, still putting in about 15, maybe 20 hours a week in those first handful of months following opening to ensure success.
Yeah.
It's not a set and forget business. It is brick and mortar, but that doesn't mean it's hard. And I think that's where people go, "Oh, I'm going to be there all hours of the day." You're going to have a window of classes in the morning. Sometimes classes will run one, maybe two over lunchtime, and then a window in the evening. So a lot of our owners that have a general manager will actually come in and maybe take a class, connect
Yeah.
with members. So it's really, making sure your team is supported, they're coached, they know what's going on. We've added a lot of LMS tools for success with the teams too. So that takes a little bit off of the owner, through our LMS and training tools that we've put in place as well. But, a lot of it is in the back end, looking at KPIs and metrics. Is your team constantly working leads? What is the response time when new leads come in? So accountability is a big part of the role,
Okay.
along with leading, motivating, inspiring the team for success.
Okay, fantastic. And so the ones that you see being very successful are just staying engaged with that um and following up on that accountability. What about people that don't have a lot of experience managing people? Do you see them adapting to this model?
Some, I think it's what you put into it, right? I think this is
Mhm.
where a person like that would want to and should lean into the corporate team for how do I best coach my team? What does success look like?
Mhm.
And, rather than the mentality of, oh, I'm just going to figure it out or know it all, it's okay to ask for help. And that's what a franchise does, right? It's supportive,
Okay.
and connecting with other franchise owners. How have you built your team? What are the conversations you're having with your team and how do you connect best? So I would say it's probably a little bit better suited for somebody that does have some sort of manager and or leadership training or responsibility, but not impossible for somebody to learn.
And then in terms of involvement in the community, you mentioned what are some of the typical things you do?
Yeah, I would say that's something that could be done with the general manager or even owner. Sometimes they like to be the community connector and say,
Yeah.
hey, I own a business, right? So, maybe you've got a female whose kids are in every sport under the sun. She encourages the moms to come in and try a class, right? We do private events, but it could be couples that are part of their chamber of commerce or really active in different aspects. So our instructors go out when it's warm out in the full seasons months and do yoga in the park and use that as a
Wow.
generation tool. And they'll teach a class and people go, I really liked your class. Where do you teach? Oh, I teach over at SPENGA. Here's what SPENGA is. Come see me over there. And so it becomes a really nice traffic driver too. We have a partnership with Lululemon. So you'll see our instructors sometimes in Lululemon stores and, they'll teach there and then again, traffic drive back to the SPENGA location.
Wow. And how do owners find those spin instructors?
We have a rigorous but beneficial audition process. So we want the best of the best instructors in any market. So we put, ads out saying, hey, we're going to do Sping instructor training, new location open. If you're interested, if you've got a background in fitness, we'd love to talk to you. So we invite them in. We talk to them about the Spenga mission vision. We
Okay.
teach them the 3 modules. So they don't have to be trained in spin, strength, and yoga. We just need them trained in at least one. We can get them trained up on the rest.
Yeah.
Personality is a big piece of that. So you can
Right.
have somebody who's trained in all three, but if they're monotone and somebody who's not going to inspire at 6 a.m., probably not
Yeah.
the person that we want. But it's a heck of a lot of fun. It's about 3 to 4 days, and then we hand select the people that we think are going to be best and most engaging.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Marketing. So you talked about the pre-launch. How does that go in terms of what Spenga's helping provide? And then and how does it ongoing go to keep that membership growing?
Yeah, a lot of what we do is digital and
Mhm.
geo-targeted, so that to the age bracket and the gender balance that we have at our Spenga classes. And believe it or not, males do attend Spenga
Yeah.
classes. So while it does skew more heavily female, that's where our marketing leans into as well. So a lot of that being, kind of Google ads online, and then nothing does replace that. What I like to call boots on the ground or guerrilla type marketing, where you're just telling neighboring businesses and friends and family, hey,
Yeah.
come check this out, because there might be some people that are missed in that marketing, but the marketing does really well. And that's where we talk about, hey, we're opening founders raids, different promotions that we're doing, really adding in new members and new eyeballs onto the brand all the time.
Is it hard to keep that membership growing or stable as you're open for a year or two?
We've had, you know what, right now we're bucking the trends in fitness, which I think is a very interesting thing. A lot of people mentally go, okay, the economy's been a little touch and go here. Fitness isn't doing as well. That's a perception. It's not actually the truth, or at least for our brand specifically. So
Fantastic.
a lot of our locations, and we'll see this in the next iteration of our franchise disclosure document filing too. A lot of our franchise locations have broken their year over year records, which I think is amazing, especially for a brand, that's been around for 10 years. And of course, those franchise locations haven't been open that long, but when you look at a brand at that benchmark, a lot of the times they're at the corporate level, especially plateauing
Yeah.
or downsliding. And so we're continuing to still steady and climb, which I think is a great, great sign.
Yeah. And I think the 3 modalities need to, or I would imagine, appeal to a lot of people because you're not just getting rowing or one specific. But and while I know they try to pepper in some other exercises, I think those are all very important. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm
Yeah.
sure you can over time do a 60-minute spin if you want or whatever in your location. But yeah, no, I was just curious if people are responding well to those three modalities, and then now you're adding in the red light therapy, which I think is huge. How does that all play out, and how does the add-ons work?
So they're a plus up. They're outside of the membership. So if you're a member, there's a plus up rate. Like I think of it as an add-on.
Hmm.
Very similar. You could do a single session, you can buy packages, but it's a great way to lean into
Okay,
your health journey, with
right.
everything from the supplements, we do some nutritional coaching. All of that kind of ties into the you versus you model that we've always talked about, and making sure you're leaning into your best self, but optimizing your health and wellness.
Right, right. In terms of locations and finding those, how does that flow with you guys?
Yeah, so that's something that I get the joy of doing with the candidates that I work with. Is helping, identify on our side behind the scenes. We look at a certain set of demographics and benchmarks of what we want to see in any given market. And
Hmm.
so I walk those through, what is open in any given market. And a lot of the major markets have some sort of territory open if it's not a full market. And so I'll kind of walk through some pros and cons of what we see in the market surrounding this candidate for accessibility, right? We want them to be close
Right.
or close enough to home, but that isn't a problem with the inventory that we have, even with the locations that are open and underway under construction.
That's fantastic. And do you have owners that have opened their multiple locations yet, or?
Yeah, we do have quite a few that have a couple locations open. And then we have quite a few multi unit owners in our network, and that does lead to multiple years of development schedule. So a lot of those
Wow.
that have purchased somewhere between, call it 2018 and 2021, are still working through those, but a lot of them, have a couple or their second studio in the works now.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Anything important that you wish, potential franchisees asked you when they're going through the process?
I often, because I was a member for a year out in LA when I was out there, I get asked why I love the concept. And, I always tell people community. It's a great way to make friends. It's a great way to broaden your networks. I would tell you the founders are absolutely amazing. It's led by six individuals, which might sound like a lot, but they each bring something special to the equation here. And then when you add in that level that we were kind of leaning into earlier, measurability and trackability in your workouts and fitness regimen, between the spin technology, our sweet spot technology is what we
Yeah.
call it. I'm not Spin is not my core strength when it comes to fitness, but it kept pushing me, and I kind of it really built my endurance. So you kind of feel
Oh,
your
wow.
body changing throughout that fitness journey when you are going through the workouts. I strength, and that's another piece that people really love about Spenga. 80% of the schedule or 85% of the schedule is 60 minutes in that 20 20 20, but you can have a portion of the schedule be an all spin or an all strength or an all yoga class. So it does become an all encompassing studio for what someone's looking for.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so do you think going forward, most people are going to go with that smaller footprint model, or people are still considering all sizes depending on what's available in the market?
It's really guided by what's available in the market. And when they sign on with Spenga, they don't need to decide right then and there. We're going to look at all options.
Okay, great.
What is open? How soon can it get open? What is the cost implications of either or waiting versus signing with this? So it's not something that we ask them to sign up for when they sign on. We're always going to look
Fantastic.
for the most efficient and effective location at the best price point.
What's a good timeline for people to be thinking about when they're stepping through this process in terms of stepping through it,
Yeah.
then, finding a location, then actually being open?
In the discovery process up front of deciding whether or not they want to, be a franchisee or join the Spenga network, that's usually 4 to 6 weeks or so. And
Yep.
then, when we do have people sign on onwards, that's usually, I say, 6 to 9 months. We have had a good couple locations, open in 6 to 7, 6 to 8 months. So the
Wow.
development schedule. Right. So it can happen pretty
Wow.
quickly.
Yeah.
There's a lot more real estate spaces around now than people think. And so I think to be
Right.
able to get in and get that started pretty soon is a great thing.
Oh, fantastic. So are you finding conversions and stuff like that where you're able to
Some
convert? Yep.
I don't want to say it to all. I think
Yeah.
every market's going to be a little bit different. It could be that a full 12 months of that first year development schedule, but we always try to keep things moving. But that real estate piece, once you find that real estate, that's when things get busier. You start moving into the pre-sale, you start getting your instructors and your talent in place, and then move towards opening. So it's a little bit of hurry up and wait in the beginning, driven by the real estate, but we try to move as quickly as we can in in the favor of the franchisee.
Any funny stories or great stories you want to share about whether it's yourself in the class or owners joining?
I've had the pleasure in my almost decade of working with the Spenga team of meeting a lot of great people that are still in the network today that, I've heard whether Spenga's changed their life, they've found flexibility and freedom. Some
Yeah.
now, because they have the flexibility and freedom, are starting families because they can balance everything a little bit differently than they had in corporate America. I'm always hearing really, cool stories. And when I was a member myself, just hearing some of those different fitness journeys of people going, I used to look like this, or I used to feel like this, or I struggled with depression. And now I have a community of which I can lean into really powerful stories of people finding themselves in different ways or coping through traumatic points in time and came out
Yeah.
ahead because they had a community base and feel good endorphins kicking in too along with them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's important you bring up the community. I think a lot of people tend to overlook that or forget about it, but
Yeah.
it's so true. It's so true. Anything else that you think is important to talk about in terms of this model?
It's a fun one. I would say fitness is never going away. It's
Right.
always going to be relevant. Any brand that isn't changing and says, no, we've got it. I always get a little leery because I don't want the same thing I wanted 3, 5, 10 years ago.
Right.
And people that are buying a business or becoming members shouldn't either. And so I'm excited to really see this brand continue to grow and thrive across the country.
That's fantastic. I look forward to working with you.
Thanks for having me, Laura.
Thanks again, Corinne. It was great to see you.
You bet.
Take care.